What is going on, guys? Thank you for joining us. It's the 11th of the 5th. We are here for the Monday night show. As always, we are supported by www.chrisdarwin.com. So go over, check it out. Get yourself Johnny Cook Championship Manager and support this guy. He's an awesome book writer. We have Colin with us tonight. Just join us, Colin.
How's it going?
Not bad, sir. Not bad. We were hoping to have Ryan with us, but he's on a helpline this evening and he is tied down helping people in need. Sounds important, so we won't question it.
Good for him.
But we're going to go on to the MLS first, Colin. You're actually going to read us through the scores that have happened over the weekend.
Absolutely. So we'll start. The first game of the week of this MLS match week was Tuesday, and there was a really, really solid 1-0 win by the San Jose Earthquakes over the Houston Dynamo. Next game of the week was Wednesday, and it was a 0-0 draw between Real Salt Lake and the LA Galaxy. And Friday night opened up the weekend action with a absolute thriller in a 2-2 draw between Orlando City and the New England Revolution, followed by another 1-1 draw between the Colorado Rapids and the San Jose Earthquakes in an absolutely miserable weather night in Colorado. Saturday's action opened up with Chicago and Real Salt Lake, with Real Salt Lake playing to a 2-1 victory on the road. And Montreal and Portland faced off in Montreal, with the Timbers coming out 2-1 winners there. DC United and Sporting Kansas City in a heavy clash of titans there drew 1-1. Then Vancouver took advantage of a woeful Philadelphia Union and beat them 3-0. In what I would call my surprise game of the week, the Columbus Crew took down the Seattle Sounders 3-2. And then the nightcap for Saturday night was FC Dallas with a really, really nice 2-1 victory over the LA Galaxy. And then MLS Soccer Sunday featured the opening of BMO Park up in Toronto for the first time this season. Unfortunately, Toronto FC couldn't pull it out and lost 2-1 to a really good Houston Dynamo. And then the very first Hudson River Derby was last night, with my New York Red Bulls beating NYCFC 2-1 at Red Bull Arena.
Fantastic, and that's the game we're going to actually talk about first. So you were there, so do you want to first talk us through the atmosphere and the build-up to the game? How was it?
So all week there's notes and flyers and things all over the New York, New Jersey area building up of, are you red or are you blue? So it was pretty good build-up, pretty big build-up. We ended up, my wife and I went to the stadium. We ended up getting there. We were probably there about an hour and a half early, and it was jammed. The only time I've seen it this big was, late in the playoffs last year was pretty jammed, and late in the Supporters Shield run 2 years ago was pretty packed like this. But this was just crazy. We got there early. We were sitting, the NYCFC supporter section was just above us. And down a little ways for it, but the stadium, it was packed. I think they said it was 25,174 was the attendance. It was just crazy from start to finish. The place was just absolutely jumping and was massively pro Red Bulls. The guys had just so much behind them, and when Phillips scored 4 minutes into the game, the stadium just went absolutely berserk and never really settled down for the rest of the game.
It was a great start. I have no idea why the New York City players were calling for the ball was gone out of play on the opening goal, because I'm sure you'll agree I think it was a good ball's width inside the line. I'm not sure if you've seen it back to be able to see the replay and get a closer look at it.
So they played it a couple of times on the big screen. So that goal happened just on the other side of the goal from where our seats are. So we had a pretty good up close and personal view of it. And it was definitely in bounds. Lloyd Sam had just some really fantastic control down the side there. And I was stunned with how wide open Phillips was. It was really surprising to me. It was most any other team we play, just marks him upside down and backwards. And for NYC to leave the league's Golden Boot winner just dangling around 3-4 yards from the goal, Sanders had no chance on that whatsoever.
It was the defense just seemed to split, and like you say, just kind of leave him stood there just to tap it in.
Yeah, I mean, Phillips has been, at least from my experience watching so far, he's been a little off from what he was last year. So he's definitely, his goal scoring pace isn't what it was, it was torrid last year. But even given that, I mean, he's still an absolutely dangerous goal scorer, and to just leave him hanging around right in the middle of the box, with both center backs just trying to figure out whose job it was to cover him. It wasn't like the box was genuinely jammed with a lot of Red Bulls players. I mean, support was coming in high in the box, but he was just all by his lonesome there, and it was a really, really nice pass from Lloyd Sam that just picked him out, and bing bang boom, there was 1-0.
I mean, obviously, Red Bulls went down to 10 men in the first half for people who didn't see it. And as Colin said to me earlier on, they spent the rest of the game basically counter-attacking New York City. But it worked to their favour because the amount of chances you created on the counter and the fact that their team just basically split apart to let you do that.
Yeah, all things considered, I really think it should have been a 4-1 game. So there was an absolutely wide open one-on-one situation between Bradley Wright Phillips and Saunders late in the game that he just fluffed and put right into him. And then there was a lousy offside call on Dane Richards in 88th, 89th minute. He was bursting out of his own end when the pass went off, and they flagged him for offsides, which obviously doesn't really work when you read the rule. But the whole game, I mean, as soon as Miazga went off, and I questioned the second yellow card a little bit. I mean, it was a shoulder to shoulder. Okay, I can see how the ref maybe saw he was pushed, but you got a guy on a yellow card. It wasn't blatant. It wasn't really out front, so I kind of questioned the second card. But okay, fair enough. He gave it to him, and our tempo in that changed. So the game slowed down. I mean, we pushed, we countered, we put it into their third, and then just slowed the game down. And over in the rest of the first half, it really just, you could see we were probing all over the place on the counter, and then in the second half just tore them open a bunch of times.
It was definitely a good game. Highlights. I only just saw the highlights, unfortunately, with me starting work earlier. I didn't get a chance to watch the game live due to the crazy time difference. I'll just quickly jump down the side. Ryan, Gavin, and Jake all say hi. And Gavin's asked, "Is it just an MLS show?" No, it's not. Just say in the comments in the description for it, we're going to be talking about the Premier League and the playoffs and the Champions League. James should be joining us soon. Ryan might get on before the end of the show. Jake, if you don't listen, you don't have to listen. You can tune off. But I think one thing I've noticed since the start of the MLS this year is LA Galaxy seem off the pace.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised. I mean, they're notorious slow starters, and Robbie Keane has been on the sideline for a few, I think four games so far, which obviously takes their attacking threat up front and diminishes it a little bit. It was really nice to see Gyasi Zardes score one against Dallas, but if you watch the highlights from the Dallas game, Diaz was just on fire as an assist machine. His two assists were gorgeous, and they got counterattacked pretty good. Their midfield and defense seem very vulnerable, and it'll be interesting to see what Bruce Arena does when Gerrard shows up to sort of retool the team a little bit to see A, how to make better use of him, but B, what he's going to do to try and strengthen what's going on in the back.
Now, I know as well as LA Galaxy, we've spoke about we spoke about teams who've been performing, not performing so far. We spoke about the new teams like Orlando, New York City. What teams, in your opinion, since this year, should people who haven't seen the MLS tune into for their first game watching the MLS?
I would definitely take some time this year to watch FC Dallas. The team they were starting to click last year, and have really come on really nicely this year. The other one I would take a look at is the New England Revolution. As much as it pains me to throw credit to a rival, the Revs are just playing absolutely top-notch soccer right now. Lee Wynn and Jermaine Jones are a really nice pair that they've built that team around solidly in the middle, and they're working on adapting Jones back to the center back position to match a lot more what he plays at the men's national team level. So they're a really, really excellent example of quality MLS. Sporting Kansas City, Real Salt Lake, they're some decent clubs as well. If you want some good rivalry action when Portland and Seattle smack into each other, that's always a fun affair. between it. But if you haven't really watched before and you're looking to see some really high quality, I'd say take a look and get your eyes on Dallas or New England.
Dallas have been really impressive so far. I do admit that. I've been a big fan of New England, but playing Jones as centre back, I'm seriously not a fan of. It's not impressed me. He's pushing up too much. He's dropping in that anchor roll a lot. And it just kind of screams to me, why don't they just play him in that freaking role instead of him always pushing up and being out of position? I always think.
Well, I think a lot of it stems from a lot of pressure from the men's national team level. So I know Jurgen Klinsmann's has been trying to convert him into a center back to play alongside Omar Gonzalez, who plays for the center back for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Jones is a dynamite midfielder, defensive midfielder. He's a very physical, very strong presence, and he keeps creeping. So I think it's going to take some time for him to settle into the role. I think he could be a very strong physical presence back there. Right now, I agree. I think he may be more liability than success at the moment. But that being said, New England's on an absolute tear and seem to be making it work for him.
I was going to say, if they're winning, don't change your winning formula. But we'll end the MLS discussion with talking about the off the field situation at the minute. I mean, the MLS is obviously, it's one of them leagues where all the fans seem to get along with each other. There's not a lot of abuse like you see in some nations and some leagues around Europe, and there is a lot of respect among the fans. And there's a lot of good friendly banter, as they call it, goes on. But at the weekend, New York City travelled obviously to New Jersey to play New York Red Bulls. There's obviously going to be some conflict maybe between New Jersey and New York itself, maybe. You'll obviously know it a lot better coming from there.
Yeah, it was actually pretty shocking to me. I mean, so the Red Bulls and like DC United have had a 20-year rivalry. I mean, every season in MLS they've been pushing against each other and a pretty strong rivalry, and their supporters always come up big and strong, but it's not like what I've seen. It was actually pretty atrocious from what we saw from the supporter section, in the stadium. I mean, they were throwing things down onto the field during play, raining stuff down onto the lower section of the stadium onto Red Bulls fans, and even what was getting posted out on their Twitter and Facebook account from their fans. It was by far an absolute abnormality between fan groups so far from my experience in MLS.
I just think when I saw all the stuff going on this morning, I just couldn't believe the hostile atmosphere that was coming across from the fans. It was just crazy to see. But on the good side, you've got Gavin in his comments there saying Seattle fans are pretty good. They're absolutely awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got Seattle, you've got New England. They have a section which is just nuts. There's a really good YouTube documentary. It's only about 10 minutes long, where two guys joined the New England Revolution for a game in 2013, I think it is. And the crowd is just awesome. I'm just trying to think going through this. There's a couple of really good. San Jose, I wasn't expecting such a loud crowd from them, Colin, but they have quite a vocal supporters group.
Yeah, San Jose has a really good one. The Timbers Army with the Portland Timbers is a dynamite supporter section. Sporting Kansas City has an incredible fan base. I think even as far as you've seen, like new teams like Orlando City. Orlando City has an absolutely rabid fan base, and you get some really, really fantastic game atmospheres from it.
I was going to say, Orlando is still filling out all the bottom section as well.
Yeah, they're packing them in.
The opening game for Orlando, the chance to see Kaká in his first game in the MLS, it filled out the whole stadium. They're now filling out the whole bottom stadium, which is still impressive. And I know the figures have been released at the MLS over the weekend just gone. The average, I think, is 27,750 throughout the league for average attendance, which has definitely gone up. So it's definitely an improving league.
Oh, absolutely. And you can see, right, obviously midweek fixtures are a little rough, but Friday, Saturday night, I mean, Orlando was jammed to the hilt. There was a lot of really, really great great crowds and great atmospheres over the weekend in the league.
Definitely worth watching. But we're going to move closer to home for myself. Only a quick flight back to England for myself. It might take you a bit longer, Colin.
Yeah, a little bit of a haul from New York.
And we're going to go on to the Premier League games first. So I'll just quickly run through them. You got Everton 0, Sunderland 2. Unfortunately, Aston Villa 1, West Ham 0, Hull 0, Burnley 1, Leicester 2, Southampton 0, Newcastle 1, West Brom 1. That's right, we got a point. Stoke 3, Tottenham 0. Crystal Palace 1, Man United 2. Man City 6, QPR down with a whimper 0. Chelsea 1, Liverpool 1. Now, I just want to read a quote from Steven Gerrard's interview. This one we're going to talk about first, which was he was more than happy with the ovation from the Liverpool fans. Chelsea fans have had respect for a couple of seconds today, but have slaughtered me all game. I'm not going to get drawn into wishing Chelsea fans well. It was nice for them to turn up for once today. Now, that's Gerrard on the Chelsea fans. Now, Ryan, unfortunately, obviously hasn't been able to join us for this part of the discussion. He was asking, was he right to say that? I mean, how much abuse do players get, Colin, on a daily basis, and they bite the tongue? I mean, I see no issue.
No, I don't really have any particular issue with what he said. I mean, you know, you're going out there. It's obviously a big heated rivalry, and everybody knows you're leaving. So, you know, they're going to take shots at you all game. It's not like he's a first-time player. He's an unknown guy. I mean, he's a pretty massive figure in English football. So yeah, they're going to lay into him, and just because they gave him a minor set of applause, I'm not really sure, that erases the last, 20 plus, 20 years of his career and getting slammed every time he shows up there. So yeah, I'm okay with the fact that he only acknowledged and said, look, you said thank you, that's fine, but I don't blame him one bit for sitting there saying, hey, you kicked me in the teeth all game, and then you handed me a paper towel to mop up the blood with, so no thanks.
And James has come on. James.
Good evening.
John, James. Just as we're talking about Steven Gerrard and obviously his post-match comments, I know Jake in the comments has said that Steven Gerrard has no respect. If somebody is getting verbally abused all game, and then as they leave, you kind of just clap for a couple of seconds, I mean, do the fans have any respect? I mean, I think that's what's got to be asked, James. I mean, should players just stand and take it? I mean, personally, I think Gerrard was fairly nice, and he's been fairly nice about the months and months of abuse he's getting.
Well, the thing is, if a player doesn't stand and take it and give something back, ultimately they're going to be punished by the FA just for doing what the fans are giving him. But how can anybody disrespect someone like Steven Gerrard, who's been nothing but a pro footballer and a great one at that? He's not one of these that thinks he's better than he is, and he's been loyal to his club. A great pro in my eyes. There
was one comment which actually stood out to me more than that, which hasn't actually really been brought up, which was the fact that he said Jose Mourinho is the best manager in the world, which I agree with. I mean, obviously, apart from John Carver. Sorry, best coach. But James, what I'd ask is, surely Brendan Rodgers has kind of tapped him on the shoulder going, hello?
Well, Brendan Rodgers is still quite young in the game, and I think, he was the under-21s coach at Chelsea when Mourinho was there the first time, I believe, or he must have just left. It was very shortly after that. So
he definitely worked under him.
Yeah, so I think he's talking about experience and all of that as well, but in my eyes, Brendan Rodgers is going to be a top manager, but nobody touches Mourinho for me.
I'm just going to quickly jump down the side. Gavin said they're better than a lot, if not most, of the Premier League teams in terms of noise. So we'll be talking about the MLS fans there. Luke Boy 294, thanks for listening, pal. He said, can you guys have a discussion on Sydney Salmon Boateng? Sure, before we continue the Premier League. Sydney Salmon Boateng have had their contracts terminated with two games of the Bundesliga still to play. Terminated or mutually terminated. Boateng, I wasn't surprised with because he's been linked a lot with the MLS, Colin. So I was almost kind of not so shocked about that. The Sydney Sam one, that kind of came out of nowhere for myself.
Yeah, the Sydney Sam one seemed a little surprising. Boateng, he's been popping in and out of the radar since early in the season as a potential for a transfer. I know there was some Middle East clubs that were interested in, and then as well as the Red Bulls, and I know he had expressed some interest in coming to New York and wanting to play for the club. So I know there's been some excitement. I was a little surprised that they decided to terminate. There's 2 games to go in the season. I was really kind of shocked, to say the least, that they decided to terminate. The summer transfer window into MLS doesn't open up for a little while yet, so I was a little surprised about the whole deal. But
when does it open, Colin?
It should be June, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact day, but it should be June.
This situation kind of reminds me of the Hatem Ben Arfa situation in Newcastle, where something's going on and we just don't know about it, because it's very strange. Now, Holger of Schalke has been suspended, which tells me something has happened if he's been suspended and those 2 have been released.
I would agree. I would agree. I think it just reads totally weird.
And Sydney Sam had only just joined last summer, and they made a big deal about getting him because they signed him on a pre-contract. And as far as Boateng goes, well, he reminds me of Berbatov. On his day, he's class, but he only turns up when he can be bothered to turn up.
Yeah.
He's very lazy.
Just quickly down the side, Jose says it's his first time listening to the show, so thank you for tuning in. And Jake says Boateng is a good ball-playing defender. We were talking about his brother, Kevin Prince. But Jeremy Boateng, he's not too bad, unless he's up against Messi. Then he drops in a hole, as I've seen many times over the internet over the last week.
Well, to be fair, he's gotten a lot of airtime all around the world, sitting on his rear end.
Becoming popular. He'll definitely be doing an advert for seating or something. James, QPR went down at the weekend, losing 6-0 to Man City. Man City have been threatening this for a few weeks now. They haven't turned up for a few weeks, so you knew at some point an explosion was going to happen, and it happens on the day which QPR needed to do something, or they were down anyway. But either way, it's not really the way you want to confirm relegation.
No, it was a recipe for disaster. I mean, like you say, City were due to batter someone, and unfortunately for QPR, it came when they needed something. And I don't know. It just seems QPR. They've not done it. They've not. You were always convinced they were going down for me, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with 14 players out of contract. And I think it's 14 or 12 players out of contract in the summer. It's a lot of money going out.
I thought there was a really interesting comparison. I was watching some news stuff over here between sort of the attitude of Burnley going down and the attitude of QPR, and that it was sort of expected, like QPR imploded, they're going to fall apart, and it's going to go spend some quality time in the Championship until they come around for another one season flash in the pan. But I think there's some genuine excitement that that Burnley's time in the Premier League is really going to manifest itself into a better squad. That when they come back, it seems like it's more of a when rather than an if they come back into the Premier League, that they're going to be a better squad for it.
I think the biggest thing for Burnley, James, will be the fact that they now will be, if they do get promoted again, or even just to battle for promotion, they've now got a training ground which is going to be obviously a bit better of a standard. Obviously, they spend all the money on training ground and other facilities just to try to improve the club as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, even though Burnley are going to finish below QPR, I think we've always more believed that Burnley, I don't know, not better, but they've shown more of themselves than QPR. QPR are going to go down, and they're going to lose those 12 players. It's a lot of money off the wage bill, but who are they going to bring in? That's the key for them, because it's going to be a lot of new players. Can they gel? And that league is very tough, and can they come back up? Whereas with Burnley, I see they're going to lose Danny Ings for nothing. Replace him, they can come straight back up. and I believe Sean Dyche will stay. And so if they can keep Dyche and the place ends with a good goal scorer, they can come back up. QPR for me will not come up in the next few years.
No, it's depressing to say, but I hope QPR don't come back up because the way they throw money at people for wages and stuff, it's a recipe for disaster, and it has come back to bite them.
Well, they bounced back up pretty much straight away after last time, and obviously that to let go Remy on loan Newcastle for the season, but it's not often, well, especially not now, how difficult that league is that we've seen the Championship this year. I just don't see them going down and come back up again. I thought they were not fortunate, but they were very glad to come back up straight away, and I don't see it happening again. And they will be a very popular save on Football Manager next year.
I think definitely. I'm just reading Ryan stuck some. He always loves to throw Man United one in. Fellaini scored a second half winner against Crystal Palace to put United within a victory of qualifying for the Champions League. They needed it, Colin. They've gone a couple of games without a victory. They were almost starting to fall away again. They've obviously confirmed the signing of Memphis Depay, so it's been a decent week for United.
Yeah, and to be fair, I thought they got they got a serious run for their money in that win. I'm still not totally convinced. Okay, that there's a huge improvement of the squad, sort of over where they were. I think that there's still more work that has to be done there to really sort of reinvigorate that engine that they were. But more power to them that they've managed to close out a decent week. Done some work with the squad, and they're really within a victory of where they want to be, and back into Europe and really back playing where they feel they're entitled to play. And given their history, it's hard to argue on that one.
History doesn't give you a future.
No, I'll give you. I fully agree.
Sick of hearing about that. Liverpool and United fans, Jesus. I'll just quickly jump down the side just to drop back on the QPR just for a second. Jake said QPR's problem is financial fair play. 60 million could be hit. If they refuse to play, they'll get kicked out of the Football League and they'll have to restart. We can dream. They've got the stadium for non-league.
Yeah, it'll make them more popular in the next Football Manager season.
Yeah, what were you going to say, James?
Well, when QPR went down last time, Tony Fernandes had the let's splash the cash, let's go straight back up mentality. Now, all them 12 players going and a lot of players coming in, I think it's going to be a different Tony Fernandes, and we're going to see the business side of Tony Fernandes. It's all about saving money now.
I kind of hope so, because it's so frustrating that you want them to fail when they just throw money around like they don't care. So you almost want them to build soundly and just put a decent team together without throwing money away, because then you kind of have a bit more respect for them, want them to do what Burnley have done. Burnley have gone down, but they've gone down and they've found new fans around the country who kind of like them just because of the way they've handled themselves.
And they had pretty much the same squad, not that many additions when they did come up. They didn't sign too many players, and I think they're going to keep pretty much the base of that squad, minus Danny Ainge. And the big one is keeping the manager. They keep the manager, they got a chance to come back up.
Yeah. Just quickly down to that, Jake said, can we discuss Paul Pogba? There's nothing really to discuss with him. The discussion of Gareth Bale, United was probably his only destination.
We've covered Bale a lot in recent years.
Yeah, it's literally, he's not going to go anywhere. There's been too much money spent for them just to get rid of him. He said QPR could do Wigan and drop in League One. That is possible. And Jose said, we will quickly answer this. I think we discussed it a couple of months ago now. So, what do you guys think about the 2020 World Cup being in the winter? Now, I can guarantee you Colin's happy with that because it doesn't affect the MLS for once.
Well, it does. Actually, oddly enough, it does, because with the time that they're scheduling the World Cup, it'll actually fall right at the tail end of the MLS Cup playoffs. I think it's so. As a purist, I think I think the FIFA really screwed up with how they handled this. That the World Cup is a summer tournament; it fits into that time frame. Admittedly, it's never favored the way MLS runs its league, and the league schedule. So this one is more favorable to how the to having a more in-fit, in-form, in-season American team. But that being said, I don't think fitness has ever really been a problem with the U.S. men's team.
I think
So
the issue with the US is the fact that the MLS doesn't give them monkeys, and they will literally just say, "Well, we're not moving the date."
yeah, no, I don't. I think it should be a summer tournament. I think the whole pick for where it is and that was a bit of a mess from FIFA's end. Obviously there's been lots of investigations, most of which I'm not sure I believe a whole lot of what they've put out, but fair enough. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference other than the fact that it's going to create nothing but endless scheduling nightmares for most of the world's leagues, and it should really be a summer tournament. I don't think I don't think people are going to avoid going to it, but I suspect it's going to be a little bit of a mess, and it really should be a summer tournament as far as I'm concerned.
I can tell you now, I'm definitely going to boycott and refuse to go, just because I can't afford to.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'll just be angry and watch it on TV.
I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, I live in a country where the football runs through the summer, so it doesn't actually affect me because the league ends before the MLS league. So, but at the end of the day, the World Cup should be in the summer, and the fact that it's gone to Qatar basically says that they paid Sepp Blatter more money than somebody else. So it's not about football anymore. It's not about what they said when I went to South Africa about trying to help poorer nations, because at the end of the day, it's the world's biggest sporting event. It shouldn't be sent to a country which struggles to do it. Look at Brazil. Look at South Africa. I mean, South Africa's stadiums, one of them's used as a bus depot now, for example. These countries shouldn't host a World Cup until they are developed enough to sustain the stuff which they're using. And if they do host a World Cup, it should be an existing stadia, not building 60,000 capacity stadiums, which are now where you go and wait for your local bus. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, it has a lot of the same sort of flair as some of the Olympics things, where they're trying to build these areas, and you end up doing more damage than not. Which I think it's a shame to the people on the ground in those countries who really have nothing to do with it and end up paying the price. I mean, some of those stadiums that they built in Brazil, it was, there were teams where I said, oh, well, we'll put a local team in it. You have like a third or a fourth division side whose best attendance is, like 2,000 people, and you put a 60 or 70,000 seat arena there. Yeah, what good is that going to be? They can't afford to open the stadium and to put it in. So
just stupid.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I don't want to sound like I'm being biased in that that the U.S. was one of the ones trying to pull in for the cup, the 2022 Cup, but it's a much better venue. It's much more established. You're not really going to impact the country all that much because we already have the stadiums and the infrastructure, and being able to use more of the MLS parks in something like that, I think would have been a much better deal. Now you're creating a mess. You're creating all these stadiums. You're off-cycling everything. You're screwing around with all of the leagues' scheduling and how they handle things. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not serious problems with how that tournament goes off.
Well, I mean, obviously we are sat discussing the 2022 World Cup, but let's be honest. There's always a chance the one in Russia might not even happen yet. So,
yeah, fair enough.
James, there's a question coming for yourself. Luke Boy is asking, when will the WizKids be updating their database? When will the next release be?
Wednesday night at latest Thursday. Hopefully Wednesday night though.
There you go, lads. I do apologise, but he is quite lazy. Poor lad's got like 1 million transfers to do.
Yeah.
Keeps you busy, James, doesn't he? Who
Yeah.
needs sleep? At least you'll be awake when you next flood your kitchen. There's a story for people to ask him on the side. We'll just jump down to the Champions League semi-finals, which have happened since our last show. And Ryan did ask, would Juventus park the bus against Real Madrid in the second leg? Juventus beat them 2-1. What I would say is Real Madrid were very, very poor, and they still came away only needing 1-0 victory to win. Sorry, not to go through. Where goals count in the Champions League? It's the playoffs you don't. So at the end of the day, Real Madrid played very poorly and are still in the tie. So I genuinely think Real Madrid will win 2 or 3-0. I do think Juventus will try to park the bus at the start, but I think it'll catch them out early, and they'll have to then come onto them.
You think so? I mean, the way I would approach, so if I was playing it and I'm Juve, I don't think that you can. I don't think you can afford to sit back. I'm not sure that their squad is really going to be strong enough to camp and park the bus and really endure 90 minutes on the road in Madrid against a rabid fan base pushing for another final and an 11th, European Cup.
I totally agree.
I just think going away from home to a big side like Real Madrid, I've just got a feeling that the old Italian mentality might come back in and they will sit.
Against Real Madrid away, you cannot park the bus for 90 minutes.
You can't attack them either, James. Attack them, you're going to leave yourself open.
I think the best chance Juve's got is to get out there and just try and get an away goal or two on that scoreboard.
Definitely.
Because if they just sit there to absorb pressure, they're going to get pounded into the dirt.
Yeah.
I think go for that one goal. They get that one goal.
It changes the whole character of that game.
Yeah. Exactly. If they get that one goal, Real Madrid need 3 to win in normal time. So, because obviously, if they get 2, it's just going to go on extra time. So, definitely, 1 goal for Juventus would totally change it because they'd cancel out Real Madrid's away goal.
Right.
But we're going to the next game, which was Barcelona 3, Bayern Munich 0. Now, I was with everybody else, I think, for the first 30 minutes of this game, where you are sat literally mouth open watching Bayern Munich trying to man-to-man mark the entire Barcelona team. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, first off, they said, they've gone 3 at the back. Then before you knew it, they zoomed out and actually pointed out that every single player was marking a player. And they literally just tried to man-mark the whole team. I mean, how crazy can you be, James, to try to man-mark Suarez, Neymar, and that other guy, Messi? I mean, it's just nuts.
That tie's over.
The idea, James, surely is to stick an extra man there when you've got that type of opposition to try to kind of make sure you're always doubling up on them, not freaking man-mark them.
You have to.
And they weren't even man-marking them deep. They were man-marking them on the halfway line, and you do know that Neymar and Messi are quite quick, and Suarez isn't exactly an old man. I was gobsmacked, genuinely gobsmacked. I was talking the other day to somebody and I was said about the show on a Monday night, and I genuinely had no idea how to address this situation that happened. Obviously they changed to 4 at the back, but then as Guardiola said, you can't stop Messi. If Messi wants to do something, he will do it, and he decided in that second half he was going to take control of the game, and he did it, Colin.
Oh, it was. The first goal was good. The second was just absolute magic. I think that second goal was, at least for me. I'm not a Barcelona fan, but if you're a football fan, you're a Leo Messi fan at some level. And that second goal where he just put Boateng on his rear end and just chipped Neuer. I don't care how many guys you stacked in front of him. You could just see the sheer will that ball was going in. They were going to go push it, and that tie was over as far as he was concerned.
Well, I think putting the goalkeeper down and then putting him down with the cheeky chip is impressive. Doing it to Neuer is just it shows your class. But I mean, I'm just as impressed by his first goal. James is more. I kind of class it as a Messi type finish because he does that a lot, where 90% of players would bend it into the corner, where he cuts across into the front post. He does that a fair few times, James, I've noticed.
Well, it's Lionel Messi. He can score any type of goal, and to be honest, I didn't see too much of the game, but it doesn't. He's just phenomenal. There's nothing he can't do, really, is there?
I mean, I know a lot of people post about the likes of his first goal just beat him at the front post. Oh, it was a good strike. It's impressive to do that. I mean, to score at the front post, normally people try to bend it in because it's the easier option. But to beat Neuer at the front post and just to cut it in, I just thought was impressive. And then there is Colin says to then stick Boateng on his rear end, but then to basically put Neuer almost on his rear end because Neuer was down. The chip wasn't a high chip, Colin, at the end of the day. It was literally head height, but he just went down, not expecting it.
Oh yeah, he had him. It was one of those situations where Messi was scoring. It was just a question of how he wanted the highlight to look when it was played 100,000 times around the world. No, I think his first goal was very. I agree with you. I think his first goal was very, very typical of what he does. Where, if you're sitting there, every fiber of your being says, okay, for every 100 strikers, 99 are gonna try and bend it for that flashy goal, and he's just gonna cut it in and be clinical and effective with it. And I think that's what makes him so amazing is he moves back and forth between just magic and and just absolutely clinical so flawlessly, and you really don't know what he's gonna do.
It's it's a special moment. I think a lot of people post comparing the likes of Ronaldo and Messi to each other, and it is becoming a lot more now. People are posting just saying, look, at the end of the day, people are going to ask you in 50 and 60 years' time, like people have done for years, saying, oh, I was old enough to watch Pele, or I was old enough to watch Maradona. Well, we were old enough to watch Messi and Ronaldo. And at the end of the day, these guys are setting new records. And I wasn't old enough to watch Maradona week in, week out, so I can't compare them two. At the end of the day, I can't do because I didn't get to watch him every single week. But Messi is the greatest player I've ever seen. And bear in mind that if I had to pick, I would be a Real Madrid fan over a Barcelona fan.
You know what?
Go on, James.
One of my pet hates is when you have your average 20-year-old football fan saying Pele was the greatest ever, Maradona was the greatest ever, like they experienced this and they know it all. It's just so frustrating to hear someone say that when you never even see him.
I totally agree, James. Yeah, before you cut off.
Until I seen something a couple of days ago, it didn't actually register to me that once Ronaldo and Messi retire in, say, the same 2-3 years' time, not in 2 years' time, but in that same space of time, we're not going to see footballers like this again, ever.
It's I always think I said to people, Pele, in my opinion, didn't play at high enough level in domestic football. But that's my personal opinion. I still didn't watch him. It doesn't matter what level you play at, his goal record is unbelievable. Maradona never played on the pitches that Messi gets to play on. It's a fact. The pitches now are better quality. But you can't take anything away from any one of them. They were the best players of their generation. We now have what people and older people who got to see Maradona and Pele play are saying that Messi and Ronaldo are better. Some are saying they're worse. But that's why football is what it is, because everybody has a difference of opinion.
Yeah, I think the thing that I think is so remarkable about the two of them is that they're playing in the same league with the same, in the same domestic league against similar opposition. They're playing on top caliber teams, playing at the top level in Europe constantly, and even less so at an international level between them. But their day in and day out gives you such a remarkable benchmark against each other, and really how fantastic the two of them are and how radically different they are in their playing. And yeah, I agree. I think football for, until the next generation, I think when these guys retire and hang up their boots, football is going to be different for those of us who have really sort of emerged and watch these guys appear on the world stage and really do what they do. I think football is going to be a very different sport when they're done.
I think. Sorry, go on, James.
It's going to be a real shame when Messi retires.
I'll tell you what, James, mate. I'm going to tell you this, that he's got over 400 goals. He's only 27 years old.
It's mad.
It is crazy because he is not even in his prime. If you go off what people say is obviously a player becomes in his prime between the age of 27 and 31. So how many goals is he going to score next season?
Yeah, I mean, but it's, when he does call it a day, it's going to be a shame that he'll never have graced the Premier League. That's the only downside that I have about Messi, is that he'll never play the Premier League. Just as well I like Spanish football, because if he was playing, I don't know, in France, where I don't really watch much, then I would never really see him.
Yeah. I just want to quickly jump down the side. FM related question: 100 million after instalments for Depay? No, don't. Oh, he's asking if he should sell him. God, yes. Drive him to Chelsea. Doesn't matter if he's a league rival. You can buy someone a region or something for cheaper.
100 million for Depay.
Yeah.
I think that's an answer for Thursday, I believe.
Yeah.
That's for cheap. Let's move on.
Come back on Thursday on our Football Manager show and let us know what happened. What I would say is just to end the Messi and Ronaldo discussion is a lot of people have discussed the likes of Hazard and people. Now Hazard is, in my opinion, the best player in the Premier League.
He's the best of the best. Outside the top two, he's the best.
Yeah, but I would have to say that he genuinely does not come close to Messi. He is a good player, but if you watch them both, like, obviously not against the same opposition because they're in different leagues, but when you watch the way Messi runs and Hazard runs, Messi is just a magician. I think we all need to just admit that he is literally just, it's like the hand of God but on his foot.
Yeah, I think for me, the one of the major differences between what Messi does and when you start to go around to some of those other leagues and you look at, you know, what like a Hazard does in England, I think what no one else really quite does the same way that Messi does is you can literally see his will to change a game, right? You said it right. Wednesday, they came into the second half and it was like, nope, I'm done. This tie is over. We're done with this. And he absolutely changed the entire character of that game. I don't get that from Hazard. He plays well. He can create things. He can augment the character of a game. But in the course of me watching him, and I think this was an absolute breakout season for him, I don't think I've ever seen where he's literally sort of just grabbed the ball and said, you know what, I'm going to change the entire character of this game and absolutely just completely change it.
It is crazy when the third best player in the world, James, isn't even close to the top two.
Yeah, he isn't. I mean, as I say, he's the best of the best.
And that's the thing.
If those two weren't around, he would be the world's best. And one day he will be the world's best. But until he breaks the 30-goal barrier, I don't know, 5-6 seasons in a row in England, he doesn't even have a chance of even being compared to them.
But that's the end of the show. We're done. Jake said he postponed his revision, so he wants us to all say that we love him. So, yeah, you can dream, Jake. So thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for coming on, Colin.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Here's for remembering, James.
Yeah.
We won't tell anyone you forgot about the show. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you on Thursday night for the FM show.